Gorgeous day today. It was on the warm side. High temperatures, though, stayed below average. Average high this time of year is 89, and the records are in the upper 90s. So 87, not too bad. And our morning low actually kind of surprised me. We did briefly drop down to 69 degrees at Kenner. Metro area usually does stay a little bit milder, and that was the case at Lakefront. Morning low 76, but well into the 50s on the North Shore. So it was a fairly cool morning for some, not everyone, especially in the metro area. And I think we'll have similar temperatures tomorrow morning. A lot of sunshine out over downtown at the moment. A temperature 86 and a dew point of 53. Humidity right now is only 32%. Not often do we see humidity that low in mid-September. I'll take it. In the 80s across the area, but more mid to upper 80s. And I think a similar day tomorrow. Then by Friday, unfortunately, humidity in the 50s and 60s will be gone as the dew points will be on the rise. That is thanks to an easterly wind. However, even with the easterly wind setting up by Friday and on into the weekend, we're not really tapping back in any kind of deep tropical oppressive moisture. Dew points will be upper 60s and lower 70s. And in fact, the upper pattern might actually favor some slightly drier air moving back in by early next week. So yes, the humidity will be returning, but maybe briefly, as we'll probably get into some slightly drier, probably not as dry as the last couple of days or these past few days that we'll see next week, but still not bad. High pressure has moved in our front down to the south. That's where all of our rainfall is. And the upper pattern again is favoring us to stay relatively dry. We've had enough rainfall for a while and we need a dry stretch, and it looks like we're going to get it. The upper troughing is starting to lift out. That's what brought through the cold front. And now an upper high is beginning to build in. Now the position of this high toward the weekend will likely favor that more easterly flow, helping to bring in some of the Gulf moisture. But then by early in the week, another ridge of high pressure, even stronger, builds in. And this is what will likely reinforce more of a northerly wind. And in fact, the building pattern into next week may be so that whatever does try and move toward the U.S. would stay away from us. That right now is tropical depression number 7. As I'd mentioned at the top of the newscast, you have strong wind shear out ahead of it. So it's right now in a fairly hostile environment, and the computers are not going with an aggressively developing system at all. A lot of thunderstorms at the moment. It's taking advantage of a fairly moist atmosphere around the storm itself. But note that the Hurricane Center kind of maintains it just barely becoming a tropical storm either late tonight, early tomorrow as it approaches the islands, basically moving due west for the next 3 to almost 4 days. By days 4 and 5, we should begin to see more of a turn toward the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, maybe in the direction of the East Coast if it doesn't take a more dramatic turn, perhaps keeping it away from the East Coast altogether. Here's what the models are saying. In the near future, again, pretty good agreement. Then we start to get a little bit more spread, but the consensus of the models is making that more dramatic turn. And both the Euro and the GFS and their ensemble members are all saying the same thing. This scenario 1, basically upper ridging is going to build across the central Atlantic, and the storm is going to follow that along with a break in the high and allow it to turn into it, keeping it away from the United States. There is still a possible scenario that this storm stays so weak, doesn't really follow along that high, doesn't get picked up by this trough, and it just keeps moving toward the west. However, most of the model agreement, as you just saw, is favoring more of this turn away from the United States altogether. That would be a great scenario for us. But as I also mentioned, right now, it is surrounded by dry air and wind shear, and that dry air and wind shear are going to plague this storm for at least the next 3 to 5 days. So it's not going to do much in the near future. It is something to watch, certainly, but at the moment, doesn't look like it is a threat for us, and certainly not a threat for this weekend, as we'll be a little more humid, maybe some stray showers near the coast. Then it looks like we might get into some slightly drier air by early next week.
But still hot.
But still hot, yeah. We're not getting into the real cold fronts just yet.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Sorry.